Hi guys, my name is Julie. Welcome back to my channel. As you probably saw by the caption of the video, we're going to be doing a 24-hour readathon. I'm super excited because this is my first ever 24-hour readathon, and I do like to binge my books. That's my favorite way to intake books because I get like immersed in the world and then I'm not like thinking about other things, but I feel like when I pick it up for like only a couple chapters at the time, I don't get the full enjoyment as like binging a book. So I'm very excited for today's video. I have like a lineup to go through and I'm hoping not to fall into a reading slump because I'm coming off like a 6-star read, Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wong, which releases October 29th. I read it in the Reading Arcs for a Week video, so you should go check that out if you want to see my thoughts. But it was like literally heartbreaking. Like I have just like a stone on my chest. Like I feel like my chest is heavy because of that book and like everything it stood for, and it was just like really heartbreaking. It was so good. Like that is my new favorite standalone book. It is just genuinely impeccable. Like it was a masterpiece, and I'm really trying to like not recreate that feeling because I don't want to feel like that. Like I don't want to have a breakdown again because I literally was bawling my eyes out, but I want to like just get over that book. Kind of like that sounds really bad because it was like it's just like a heavy hitting book, and I kind of just want to like distract myself from thinking about it because I've been thinking about it since I finished it, and it's a lot. So without further ado, we're just gonna go through the books that I want to read in this video. One of them is pretty thick, 700 pages, so I don't know if it's like the best thing to read for a 24-hour reading video, but I really just want to get through it. Like I'm super excited to read it. That is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is on my Fall TBR as well, so that'd be great to knock it off. I'll get more into like the descriptions of the book when I actually get to reading it because I like to go into my books blind. Like I do have like a general idea about what most of these are, but I feel like I'll describe it better once I'm like more into it. This is the first book I want to read. I do have the audiobook, so when I have to do other stuff around the house, I can listen to it as well. Hopefully that doesn't take up too much time. Like I feel like it could end up taking half the reading vlog to do, so we'll see. Hopefully not too much. But then I have A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saft. This is like a mystery. It's a sapphic romance. I know it's like academic rivals to lovers. It just sounds really good. The cover is gorgeous, also on my Fall TBR, and I really want to get to this. It's a lot shorter than When the Moon Hatched. It is 360-ish pages. The next two I'm not really sure if we're gonna get to. We'll see, because I feel like whenever I start like a big fantasy book, it takes like more time to read than like something like a romance book or like something not 700 pages. So, but the next book I have is Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. I do not have a physical copy. I actually have the audiobook and the ebook from my library. I went to my library yesterday to check it out and see if they had like the physical copy because they just got it yesterday. It's like a new release because it got traditionally published recently, and it was closed. I couldn't go to the library. They're closed for inclement weather, and I couldn't pick it up, but I do want to read it. It sounds really intriguing. I saw it in person, like a signed copy, and I really wanted it, but then I looked at the price and it was $30, and I was like, you know, like I'll read it when it gets to my library, thank you. The fourth book is an arc. It is Exquisite Ruin by Adrienne May. I know not too much about this book. I know it's like a Minotaur retelling kind of thing, and it just sounds really good. The cover, obviously stunning. This comes out in 2025. I don't know the exact date. I'll put it on the screen, but I'm not sure if we'll get to this in this video, but I do want to get my feedback in. I mean, I just read 4 arcs in the Reading Arcs for a Week video, but I do want to get to another one. This is the only other arc I have as of right now. I do want to get to those 4 books in this video, but we'll see if I even get to 3 of them because I don't know how long When the Moon Hatched is going to take. But I'm going to set up some ambiance, hopefully see if my Roku is deciding to work today. I genuinely have like actual beef with my Roku because it never turns on. Like my TV works and then the Roku works like maybe 25% of the time. We'll see. I'm gonna put on some like fantasy ambiance and we'll start the timer. I forgot to say I was gonna do this like the 12 for 12 hours, like 12 hours one day, 12 hours the next day because it's Thursday, Friday. But today is Thursday and it's 12 p.m. so I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna read till 12 a.m. We're just gonna read as much as we can today, and then we'll try and do like the 12 hours tomorrow. We'll see. Whenever I do the timer, it's gonna be going while I read, and then if I'm eating, doing household tasks, sleeping, anything like that, it will be paused. So we're just gonna set the vibe and get straight into this. Alright guys, little update. I have 22 hours and 15 minutes remaining on the clock, and I am about 169 pages into When the Moon Hatched. I was pretty nervous about like how long this book is, but I honestly feel like the text is like not that big, and it's also like not all the way onto the page. Like it's not taking up too much of the page, so I think it's honestly like pretty easy to get through so far. I really have like no updates about the book itself besides like I like how it's like set up, like the art style. I'm not really sure the name, and like I like the stuff that's like inside the book. It just makes it so like interesting to read. I just really like it. And then also like these in between the blocks. But yeah, other than that, I have nothing to say like plot wise or character wise about the book. I'm enjoying the writing. It feels very like fantasy. I mean, like, yeah, obviously, I mean, like it feels fantasy in the sense that like it feels like reading a fantasy novel, and I feel like I've been reading kind of like ones that don't feel like super fantastical so far. Like this one feels like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like I can't say like it's not a fantasy, but like the books that I've been reading lately just haven't been like a fantasy, and this feels like fantasy. Like the world building and everything is super intriguing. It did take me a while to like get through the glossary because I was like looking at it, I was like reading it, and I was like, well, none of this has been like put into practice yet because we haven't read about it. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like confusing, like not confusing, but it's just like I'm not gonna remember all of this. So like if there's stuff that I didn't remember while I'm reading it, I just go back to the glossary. And so it does take a little time, but like honestly, I feel like I'm like flying through it pretty quickly because I just feel like it's not like difficult to read. It has like a bunch of like just like the pictures and stuff in the book, and it's like not large text. So I'm enjoying it so far. I really have nothing to say about the plot. I feel like the plot hasn't like not that much has happened. Like stuff has happened, but like not too much where I need to like comment on anything. But yeah, I'm just gonna continue reading. I'm I'm a little bit tired right now, I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm thinking about taking like a 30-minute nap or something, but I'm not sure. We'll see. Alright, time for another update. We are at 20 hours and 15 minutes remaining, meaning we've done 3 hours and 45 minutes of this challenge. I am on page 381 of When the Moon Hatched. Honestly, pretty good progress, like halfway through. I want to finish this today. I don't think I will. It's like 7 p.m. and I've just been like in and out of the book. I do want to finish it tonight, but I don't know if I will. But I think at the pace that I'm reading it, because I feel like I'm reading this pretty quickly just because like the text isn't that large, I feel like I could get like maybe like 75% in, maybe more, and then we'll do a lot more reading tomorrow. So we'll see. I'm just gonna read it and then I'll update you guys probably before I go to bed or tomorrow, and we'll see. Alright guys, so it is about 8:30. I just took melatonin and did my night routine, and I have my retainers in and everything. So I was listening to the audiobook while I did that, while I was eating, while I was getting like everything situated to sleep. And so what I was doing when I listened to the audiobook was I was just keeping track of the time on my phone through a stopwatch, and then I just subtracted it from the 24-hour timer. And I'm about to do the reading update. I just want to say like it's like 8:30, but I think I'm just gonna stop here because I think I'm about 75% in, so I kind of just want to go to bed and then wake up early, like wake up at like 5, and I'm trying to fix my sleep schedule, so like by going to bed really early, then maybe I won't go to bed at like midnight tomorrow. I don't know, but anyways, we could wake up at like 5, and hopefully I won't be tired so we can read a lot more tomorrow. There is currently 19 hours on the clock, so that means we read for about 5 hours today, and I am on page 518, literally 75% in, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so far I'm not gonna go over my thoughts right now because I honestly like have none. Like I have some, but I feel like I just kind of need to see how it ends to articulate what I want to say. But I mean, I'm liking it, but I'm not liking it. I'm not gonna go into it now. Like I'll probably just do like a full review after I finish the book because I honestly am just kind of confused on like where the plot is going right now. I'm not really sure like what is happening. Like, not that I'm confused because it's like too hard to understand. I just feel like the plot's kind of all over the place. Like, I feel like we lost the plot a little bit. So yeah, page 519. Honestly, that's pretty good progress because I feel like I have been reading a lot more. I feel like sometimes I average like a page a minute, but I feel like I'm reading like 100 pages per hour, like on average. So I feel like we're doing a little good today. I'm just gonna go to bed. I feel like I'm just trying to talk and then I'm gonna wake myself up more. So I'm just gonna go to bed and then I'll see you guys in the morning when I start reading. And then hopefully we can finish it pretty early in the morning tomorrow so I can start a new book because I'm just like kind of ready for this to be over. I'm not. Anyways, good night. Guys, so here's the deal. Basically, I did fall asleep at 8, probably 8:40, 8:50, I don't know. Like the melatonin worked. And I fell asleep and then I woke up at like midnight because the power went out and I'm a very late sleeper, so I woke up because my fan stopped going. And then I had a difficult time falling back asleep because the wind was really strong. It was like putting like there's a tree outside my window and it was like really loud, but I went back to sleep. Then I did wake up at 5 a.m. and I wasn't that tired, but the power was still out, so I went back to bed until 7 again. And then I was like, you know what, let me just read anyways because I'm like, I'm not really tired anymore. So I guess the power's out in everywhere in my house except for my room. Don't know why. I should probably check like the box, like the power box in my garage, but I'm just gonna get like my reading light and read in bed for a little bit and try and finish that book. You know, it makes sense now why when I was looking outside the window there's a street lamp on. I was like, how do they have power and we don't? Guess it's just my room's power that went out for whatever reason, but I mean, I am the only room on the second floor. Anyways, we're just gonna start for again at 5:18, and then I need to get my timer so I can start that, and then we're just gonna read until we finish it. Guys, so I've been reading for an hour, 15 minutes, and 54 seconds, and I finished When the Moon Hatched. So we're gonna go over a review later, but I'm just gonna subtract that from the timer that's on my iPad, and then I kind of just want to start the next book right away, but I also need to eat breakfast, so I don't know if I'm gonna start it on like audiobook or if I'm just gonna wait until after I eat breakfast, but we'll see. I'll let you know, and then I'll do like my review for When the Moon Hatched. It's not gonna be a great review because I honestly like don't even know what this was, but yeah, anyways, I'm just gonna do that and then I'll see you guys in a little. Okay, so I did not start it. I was watching YouTube, and then now we have to go clean up outside because the hurricane, like the wind and everything, made the outside like just like crazy, and then like a couple branches fell on our fence and just stuff like that. So we have to go clean up outside and then clean up the entire downstairs. So I'm probably just going to be listening to an audiobook for like a while now. I don't know if I should start Fear the Flames or A Dark and Drowning Tide. I don't know. I kind of want to read A Dark and Drowning Tide, but I don't like starting books on audiobook unless I'm gonna listen to them fully on audio. Beep beep, little intermission, because I definitely forgot to film my review that entire day of When the Moon Hatched, so we're gonna talk about that now. As you saw, I did finish When the Moon Hatched, and I didn't go over what this is. It basically follows this girl. She's named Rave. She is an assassin for this rebellion group, and basically the rebellion group, Fier d'Ath, they're kind of like against the king. There's like, I think 3 kingdoms? Yeah, 3 kingdoms, the Burn, the Fade, and the Shade. And basically in the kingdom that Rave lives in, she is an assassin for the rebel group, and the rebel group is just against the king. He's like a tyrant. He's not a good guy. They kind of like want to displace him, usurp his throne basically, but they're kind of working up to that, and she's like killing bad people that are going against the rebellion, and just people doing bad things. Starting off the book, we get to see her like taking down this dude who has like a really bad trafficking ring, I'm pretty sure. But then whenever she's like done with her mission, she goes back to like the leader of the rebellion, and she is like, you need to lay low because there is this dude in town. He is a bounty hunter and he's trying to get you. Fury Hunter ends up killing her friend, like her best friend, and so she goes after him in order to get revenge, and he kind of like catches her. she gets sent to a prison, and then this whole thing happens. The guy who ended up usurping the throne in a different kingdom finds her, and then he like recognizes her for some reason. And so, I mean, we get the reason, but I can't tell you the reason. He recognizes her, and so it goes like on this whole journey of him like getting her out of the prison and then them going on this thing. And honestly, I thought this was gonna be like really heavy fantasy vibes. Like I was saying, I was like, it feels like reading a fantasy. Like, I feel like the writing is super high fantasy, kind of like ish, if that makes sense. However, this is very much romantasy. After I feel like maybe the 40% mark, it started going like very romantasy. I didn't dislike the couple, don't get me wrong, but I didn't love that it just like switched over to romantasy, because it felt like there was like no plot, like there was no motivation. She had like this motivation in her mind, but it was like gone out her head once she realized she liked this man. And then there were a couple spicy scenes, and it was just like very, very heavy on the romantasy and not on the fantasy. I'm gonna give this a 3 stars. I didn't love it. I feel like maybe if I knew it was more of a romantasy going in, then I would have like realized that. But I mean, I like to go into my books blind, so I didn't really like think it was gonna be a romantasy. And I mean, I should have figured, but it was definitely heavy on the romantasy. If you like spicy, if you like fantasy, but like with a predominant romantasy plotline, I would definitely pick this up. It has like a trial aspect to it, but I feel like the trial is not like trials, it's not like competitions, it's like a trial. I don't think I'm gonna continue this series whenever the new books come out, just because I don't really think I cared about the characters or where the storyline was going enough. I do think there are other series that I want to devote my time to. So I think this cover, gorgeous. I think the world building was really interesting, and like the glossary being like so intricate and everything, the world, it was a really cool premise. I just didn't like the execution and how it went more romantasy, because I was kind of expecting more of a political dragon book going into this, and it definitely was that for a little bit, but then it like kind of switched over. So guys, so it's a little later. It's like 12:30. I just got finished like doing the yard and doing the house and then eating lunch, and my body is just tired. Like, I'm ready to go to bed. I'm ready to shower, and like I am not, like, I can't even wash my hair. Like, I'm gonna take a body shower, but I can't wash my hair because I'm getting my hair touched up at 3, because I went and got like my hair fixed, and as you can see, like the top didn't lighten as much as the bottom, so she said she would fix it. And I'm taking my brother to get his haircut as well. While I was doing the yard and everything, I was listening to Uglies by Scott Westerfeld, because I want to read it before I watch the movie. I read it when I was like a kid, but like I don't remember anything from it. I'm liking it because it's like, oh, like, why dystopia? Like, that's like, dystopian is one of my favorite genres. Like, it's just something that's like always gonna hit. I feel like the main character is a little annoying, just because like obviously she is, because she's been like brainwashed, and so we know what the commentary stands for, but she doesn't, because she wasn't raised like that. And it's like, I'm probably not gonna rate it. It's interesting. I listened to it for about 2 hours and 37 minutes and subtracted that from the timer, and we have about 15 hours and 5 minutes left with 52 seconds remaining. I'll show y'all. So yeah, we have 15 hours left. I am probably just going to see if my library has it, and if they do, download it on my Kindle and then finish reading it on my Kindle. Hopefully I can finish it before the appointment, which is at like 3 something. And then we'll probably start A Dark and Drowning Tide. I just wanted to like physically read that book, and I couldn't, obviously, doing all that stuff outside. So I was considering doing Fear of the Flames, but I feel like I didn't want like the fantasies back to back, because they're like similar, like with like royalty and dragons. So we're just gonna finish Uglies by Scott Westerfeld, and then we'll get into another read probably after my appointment. I don't know, we'll see. Alright, and then I also forgot to go over the description of this book, but it is like a pretty popular series from like back in the day. Like, it's not like that old, but it was like a pretty popular YA fantasy. It follows this girl named Tally. She lives in this world where it's kind of like a futuristic America. Everybody in the world is considered ugly until they get a surgery at age 16 to make them pretty. It is basically just like commentary on like beauty standards and societal expectations, and like the way that they make you think, especially in terms of like looks. And it's a very interesting book. I'm not going to give this a rating, because I just feel like I don't like to re-rate books that I like read in my childhood, because I'm not looking at it super critically. Like for YA dystopians, most of the time I'm just like there for the vibes. Like I'm just there for like the it's gonna hit every time. I am super interested to see like how it was adapted, because I do think it's like pretty action packed, but like I know people are like, oh, like why when they become pretty they just put like a glam filter on it. I'm like, I do think it's gonna be pretty funny to see it adapted. Tally's a couple months out from getting her surgery, but her best friend Paris has already been turned pretty, and she goes to try and like sneak into Pretty Town and basically like find him and talk to him because she misses him so much. And she ends up almost getting caught by like all the pretty people at this party, because in Pretty Town they just party all day. Like they don't do crap, they don't have responsibility, and they just be pretty and party. So Tally has to escape. She has to do this like crazy like bungee jump jacket thing, and then she ends up meeting, oh my gosh, not me forgetting her name. It's short and it starts with like an S, I think. She was literally my favorite character too. I don't remember her name. That's crazy. So the girl is just like convincing Tally to go, and it's like commentary. It's like a YA dystopian. I don't want to say anymore because I don't know what would be considered a spoiler, but yeah. Feeling very Renee Rapp right now. And what gave you the confidence? Delusion. Did not read all weekend. We had family over, and then Monday, and honestly most of Tuesday, like it's like 5:20. I don't know. I was just like catching up on like editing, on filming other videos, on schoolwork, on life. Anyways, we are gonna be continuing reading probably tomorrow. I'm not gonna lie. I just started filming and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna read today. So I think I'm gonna start Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. Let me grab my Kindle. I just like walking about my room like trying to find my Kindle, and it was right in front of me. So but anyways, let me pull this up. Right, it says it's 373 pages, so I'm gonna go set the vibe, as you know, and then we are gonna start the timer and start reading. I don't know how much I'm gonna get done today. I feel like I haven't been reading that much recently. Like I was going, well, okay, so whenever it was like the time that I was actually doing the reading vlog, I had read like 5 books in 5 days, and then I was doing like the reading vlog, and then so I read most of The Moon Hatched one day, finished it the next day, read another book, and then after reading The Uglies, I just didn't read anything for like a couple days, and like partly because I was busy, but partly because like I'm not in like a reading slump, but like I'm not like fiending to pick up a book right now like I was like during that time. I think I just read so many books that I didn't love that I was just like, you know, and also like I read one 6-star book, and then that also like made me want to not read because I was like, it's so good, it's you know. Anyways, we're just gonna start Fear the Flames. We're gonna set the vibe, start the timer, see how much we can read today, and then tomorrow we'll see if we can get a little bit more done. So I think I'm about 50% into Fear the Flames. I've been listening to the audiobook for like a while. I read a little bit yesterday, then I went to bed, and then I was listening to it more last night and today. Something about it is not doing it for me. Basically, this book follows this girl named Elowen. She is like the runaway princess of one of these kingdoms that I don't remember the name. When she was younger, she had these dragons gifted to her, but then, I don't know, her dad's like the king, and he just, I guess, had like a prophecy in his head, and then something that it was gonna go bad with her and the dragons against him. And so he like hit her, I guess, and the dragon bit off his finger, so they took the dragons away from her and imprisoned her, and she was like 4, and then she ran away with, I think, her uncle or something. And then she like had this whole kingdom that she made, like a hidden kind of kingdom, like that just grew over time. And then now she's going on this quest to like get back her dragons, and I just feel like the world building is very lackluster. Like genuinely, I cannot tell you that much about this book at all. Like I just feel like it's like kind of lackluster. I feel like the writing, I don't think it's bad, but I think it's a little on the nose. I feel like the characters are just like kind of flat. Like I feel like they're trying to be like built up, and I just don't think it's doing it for me. Like something about this book is not meshing well with me, and if I didn't have it on, like if I wasn't already halfway done with this, I'd probably DNF it because it's just not doing it for me. Like I don't know why. It feels very generic. I will say, I don't mean that in a bad way. That sounds so negative. I mean, it's just like every single aspect of this book you can find done better in other books, and so I feel like I'm like kind of wasting my time because I know I'm not going to want to continue the series, but I'm going to finish it anyways because we like have spent a couple hours on this already. Like I'll show you the timer in the next clip because I don't have it updated with the time that I was listening to on my audiobook, but it's just like on the nose. Like there is some banter, but then sometimes I'm like, hey, like that's just like to the point where it's like no one talks like that, and it's a fantasy, who cares? But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not enjoying it that much, and I don't really care about like the characters, the plot, or like anything. Like I feel like the only plot I'm interested in is the dragons, but I feel like the world has just not been built up at all. Like I feel like I don't even know like why these kingdoms are going to war, what is going on. Like I just also just feel like in general the writing is in first person, which I kind of prefer a fantasy to be in third person, but like if it's written well then I don't really mind. But I feel like I was minding a lot at the beginning. I do think it got better since then, but I don't know, something about this book, it's just like kind of like not hitting, and I don't know why. I feel bad. I feel like this was really negative, but something about it's not doing it for me. I think there are like some funny moments, but then sometimes I'm just like, oh, it's so like overtly in your face that I'm like back up. Like we don't need everything told to us like outright. We can imply things sometimes. Anyways, I'm just gonna finish reading this. Like I'm probably just gonna binge it right now and then try to finish it because I kind of want to be done with this book. I want to start the next book. So I'm about 93% in, almost done, but I'm just gonna talk about my feelings now because I know nothing is gonna happen that's gonna change like my thoughts about this story. I'm not gonna give it a rating till I actually finish it, but I'm just gonna talk about it now. I feel like the premise was really good. It follows this girl named Elwyn. She is the queen, or like the princess of this place called Imarath. She was gifted these dragon eggs as a baby, and then she was growing up with them for like 4 years. They were still small, and during these 4 years her father was getting very paranoid because there was this prophecy that he was foreseeing that I guess like she would destroy the kingdom with the dragons or something like that. It wasn't really explained. At age 4 he like goes to hit her because he is like paranoid because he's just a bad person, and so he goes to hit her, and then the dragon leaps at him and bites off one of his fingers, so he like banishes the dragons to a dungeon, and then she gets imprisoned, and then her uncle ends up like taking her out of the kingdom and like escaping with her because she's in prison and she's a child. And then she gets raised in this other community, and slowly over the years the community gets built up into their own like small kingdom that's like unknown to other people, but it's like her kingdom, and so she's like the queen of that. And then one day she's like on this mission to like get more supplies or something, and the commander of like a rival kingdom like tracks her down, and he's like, I need your help, like we can go on this quest together to get your dragons back in exchange for you helping us with the war against your old kingdom with your dragons. So that's basically the premise of the book, and it sounds all good, right? Except that doesn't actually happen. Like the actual quest for the dragons doesn't happen until 80% into the book, and like I feel like that could be justified if you had a good build up, like if they were going on this whole like trek across like months or whatever of a trek, and then some stuff happened along the way, but they literally weren't. They were just in the other kingdom's court, like going to balls and just having like a romantasy plot line, which if you like really like romantasy, but you like romance as like the main plot of the book and there's just like a subplot, then I feel like you would like Fear the Flames or When the Moon Hatched. But those were just so romantasy driven for me that I don't think I can say I'm a romantasy girl anymore, because I feel like I like fantasy with like a very subplot of romance, because I feel like we're just like losing the plot. Like, why did the plot take 80% of the entire book to happen? Like, I feel like this book didn't need to be a series. It didn't need to be this long. This could have just been like a slow burn up into the war standpoint, which hasn't happened. That hasn't happened. That's going to be in the later books, and I feel like it didn't need to be in the later books. I just think the pacing was so like romantasy focused, like romance part of the fantasy focus, that it took away from the actual plot, and I just don't think as a fantasy book this needed to be that long. But that's just my personal opinion. Like, everybody has different experiences, and I just don't think that this was for me. I think that the premise sounded good, and I feel like the romance could have been built up better. I feel like as characters, like, the whole dynamic of her being like a runaway princess and the queen of this other kingdom, and then him being the commander of like her rival kingdom, and them needing to work together for this plot, like to get her dragons back, was a really good plot, except we didn't focus on that plot at all. And I feel like he is just like a cardboard cutout of like what people want when they say like morally gray, I hate everyone but you, like male main character. But he's literally so boring. Like, we got one like scene of background on him that's like even the littlest bit emotional at 87%. I don't know anything about this man. Like, genuinely, I know nothing about him except that he's grumpy, hates everyone but her, and that he literally is just like horny. I feel like it has like a lot of things where they're like trying to say like something to like be like motivating, I guess, like, oh, you need to love yourself. But I feel like it's so outwardly spoken that I just feel like it just doesn't hit, because I'm like, yeah, you're straight up telling it. Like, I don't need you to straight up say like the stuff you're saying. I feel like that should be implied by the way that the character feels. And maybe that's just like my personal preference when I'm reading a book, but I don't need like that kind of like commentary about like, oh, having friends is so nice and feeling like you belong is great, but I don't need it told like literally in that way. Elowen like constantly says that. She's like, oh, like, I just need to learn to love myself, and I just need to, and I'm like, that is like great stuff. Like, you should be incorporating that into your books, because that is something that people should be reading about, because that is very positive. But I'm like, the way that it's written is just not doing it for me personally. But I don't know. I feel like this was like a super negative review, but I genuinely just like feel like this wasn't for me. Like, I just don't think I'm the audience that was like going to enjoy this. And I feel like people should know that this is very like romance heavy, but when going into this book, because with like the whole premise of the back being like, oh, like it follows this like quest, and like these two people, obviously I knew it was going to be a romantasy, but I didn't think it was going to be that heavy romantasy. It was strictly romantasy for like 80% of the plot. I do think I would have enjoyed this if it focused more on the plot, and the middle 70% of the book wasn't like literally just the romance, because like I feel like other stuff was happening, but it was mainly just happening to center around the romance and to build that up. But I didn't feel like it was built up emotional at all. Like, genuinely, these people have nothing in common besides that they kill people and torture people. And I'm like, genuinely, like, I see like nothing emotional about them, like as a couple. It's just like basically just physical. Like, it was insta lusty to me, and I just like feel like there's no love. Like, I can't even say it's like insta love, because like I don't know if they even like each other like that. Like, what do you like about each other? Because I feel like it was just physical, and I just don't think this book was for me. If you like a spicy romantasy, heavy on the romance, with like a fantastical plot, but it's not like actually like gone into that much, then I feel like you might like this more than I did. I'm just gonna finish it right now, because I had probably like 10 more minutes of reading or something. I'm 93% in, so we're just gonna finish this, and then I'll give like my star rating, but I'm not going to talk about it anymore unless there's like something that comes up in that time, because I feel like I've said my piece. I just didn't really enjoy this book, and I don't think it was for me, but I'd still recommend it. If the premise sounds good to you, just know that it's very romantasy and not as much focused on the actual plot. Alright, so I finally finished the book. I am gonna land on a 2 stars for this. I just really didn't enjoy it. I just don't think it was for me. I think the premise was good. I just didn't like the execution and the way that the plot went about. So I'm gonna give this a 2 stars. But I feel like I said my piece. Like, I just talked for like minutes and minutes and minutes about it. So I'm not gonna go into anything else about it. I just feel like I said my piece. This was just oddly paced, in my opinion. I'm gonna give it a 2 stars. And then the next book that we're gonna read is an arc, but it's not Exquisite Ruin, because yesterday I got approved for the arc Private Rites by Julia Armfield. That is the author of Our Wives Under the Sea, which if you saw my reading wrap up a couple months ago, I ended up giving that like a 3.5 stars or something like that. Like, I didn't entirely love that book. I just felt like the plot was like kind of non-existent. Like, there was a plot, but it wasn't like fulfilled, if you know what I mean. Like, in my personal opinion, like, I know a lot of people loved that book and loved the way that the plot went, but I personally just didn't. But I really like Julia Armfield's writing style. Like, the prose was really good in that book. As you can see, we have 10 hours and 11 minutes left on the timer, and we are going to be starting Private Rites as soon as I get my ambiance set. it's Friday. Yesterday it was a super busy day. I had like a bunch of appointments and just like a lot of stuff to do. So I didn't end up picking up Private Rites, but I did pick up an audiobook, even though I knew the end, by C.L. Polk, I'm pretty sure. It was narrated by January Lavoie, and I think that they just did an amazing job like voicing all the characters and everything. It felt very good. This story basically follows this girl. She is like a magical detective, and in this world it's like a fictional like period piece set in Chicago, and it's a sapphic romance. It follows this girl. She is like the magical detective. At the beginning of the book, she's going to this crime scene to check it out and just see, because her client is paying her to like go get pictures of it. And we learned that it's like her last weekend to live, because she ended up selling her soul to the devil, like giving up her soul for her brother's life, if that makes sense. Like, you learn more about it as you go, and I don't want to give too much away, but basically she sold her soul, so she only had 10 years to live since selling her soul. And her brother were in no contact during this time. But at the beginning of the story, he is like kind of like in this brotherhood of like magicians. It wasn't explained that well. Basically, like, he comes and he's like, you can't take pictures of this crime scene, like it's a crime scene, you need to leave. You're like exiled from like the brotherhood of magic or whatever that like she was in, and then she got kicked out of because it's like a sin to give up your soul for someone else's life. But basically she takes pictures for her client, and then her client's like, if you solve this murder, if you catch like the White City vampire, who was like Chicago's serial killer at the time, then I'll give you $1,000. And she's like, well, it's my last weekend to live, like I don't want to have like a job, like I just want to go and hang out with my girlfriend and the love of my life, and we're just gonna have a good time, and then I'm gonna die. But then her client is like, actually, I am a devil, and I am going to give you your soul back if you catch the serial killer, because he is stealing my souls. So basically she's like, okay, well, I can get my soul back and I can live this life, and me and my girlfriend can move to San Francisco so she can like follow her dream of being like in the radio business. And so she goes on this like whole quest. Her and her brother are reunited, and then she's like just learning things about the other people around her that's like kind of like very, I don't even know how to describe it. It has a lot to do with like devils, angels, magic in general. It's just like very intricate. I feel like the world building wasn't explained a lot in this book, but I feel like for a novella, like you kind of just learned as you went. And I did think it was like developed enough to the point where I wasn't super confused, but like obviously you don't have like the full picture because the world building wasn't like half the book. So I did think it was a good time. I ended up giving it a 4 stars. I would recommend this for like a short like audiobook. I feel like the narrator of the audiobook did an amazing job. It was just a really good audiobook. I ended up listening to this for 2 hours and 45 minutes. So if I take that off the timer, then we have 7 hours and 26 minutes left and 37 seconds. But overall, I feel like the characters for such like a short book for a novella, they were like pretty developed. Like I really cared about their characters. The ending was pretty tragic, but also like happy. Like it was like it's not like something that I'm probably gonna remember forever, but it was just an entertaining listen. So I'm gonna start Private Rites, probably not today. I have like a lot of schoolwork to do. I've like already done a couple assignments, but I have like a lot to do and then a lot of stuff to prepare for transferring. So we're probably not going to read anything more today, but if we do, I'll let you guys know. So we're going to start Private Rites probably tomorrow. And tomorrow I'm hoping to finish this challenge because obviously, like I said, we have 7 hours and 26 minutes left. So if I can knock that out all on Saturday, that'd be great, because this video is taking like a lot longer than I thought it was going to take. I thought it was going to be like 2, maybe 3 or 4 days, and it's almost been 2 weeks. I mean, a week, but it's been a while. So we're going to try and knock that out tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Hello, it is the next day. So we need to get through this book, Private Rites. Okay, basically, I said I wasn't going to read anymore yesterday, and I read 40% of this book. We know from this video that I have not been sticking to my word. It's just not been happening. So 40% into Private Rites. Basically, this is a story about 3 sisters. Isla, Irene, Agnes. They are mourning their father who just passed away. And he was like a really famous architect, and one of his biggest projects was their house that they lived in. And in this world, it's like constantly raining, it's like flooding all these places. It's really bad. It's like a King Lear retelling from Shakespeare, if you know what that is. I don't anyways, but they like live in this house, and it's like mechanically functioned to move up every time the sea levels rise. Anyways, besides the point. Anyways, this is like kind of like reminiscent of Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, in the sense that this death is causing them to like reevaluate their life, like look at their childhood and just like think about everything that's happened and how it's making them the person that they are. The writing, it's so impeccable so far. This writing is like literally better than Our Wives Under the Sea, and I thought that writing was good. I feel like we're just getting so much character development, and it's so easy to care about these characters. Like, they're not the perfect people. There's a lot of stuff wrong with them, just like in Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors, but it is so good. It's so good. The writing is just really good. I feel like I am reading this a lot slower. Like, obviously I'll have put the time on the screen. I am reading this slower just because it is like one of those stories where every single sentence is like meaningful. Every single sentence means something. There's so many things that I've highlighted that I can't even show you because it's like a spoiler, and because this is an arc releasing this day. Anyways, it's good. I'm just gonna continue reading it today, and we're gonna try and finish it. I really, really want to read The Cruel Prince. I just need like a fantasy. It was a difficult to get into at first because I'm just like in the mood for like a little fantasy. Anyways, we're just gonna continue reading it. So far, I can't really describe the characters. They're all so different. Forgot to mention that there's like a subplot of like creepiness, of like culty kind of stuff in this. Like, I feel like it's just gonna build up. Hopefully it builds up, because I feel like in Our Wives Under the Sea there was that main plot line, and then it like built up over this like sense of the novel, but not to like the point where I enjoy the plot. Like, I feel like her plots kind of like further character development, which I like, but like at the same time I'm like, I really want to see this plot through. I'm feeling like it will be seen through more in this book, so we're just gonna keep reading. Hi guys, ignore my like hair. I just took a nap, so my bangs are kind of they're just there, my cowlick. Anyways, basically I finished Private Rites. It took me this long to read the book because it was like really just written very densely. I would say dense, but like it's not like dense to where it's like a fantasy kind of dense. It's just dense to like where every single sentence is meaningful. Like, you can't just like mindlessly read it, because everything means something to the characters, everything means something to the progression of the plot, the pacing. Like, it's just so meaningful, and it hit pretty hard. Her writing style is just so good. I feel like you can really relate to these characters even if you don't have many things in common. Just like, you can feel that empathy, feel that sympathy for them, and it's just really, really nice to read about. I love her character development. Her characters are just so blunt. They're so blunt, and like, they're so just relatable. Like, their thoughts are not pretty perfect sunshines. Like, I ended up giving this a 3.75 stars just because I kind of felt like the plot was not there, and that's kind of how I felt reading her other book, Our Wives Under the Sea, because I felt like I really loved the writing, I really liked the characters. However, I didn't connect to the plot because there was not like a lot of plot. Like, there's a plot, and the plot is like just there so that there is a plot, and it kind of just drives the character development forward, which I understand, and I do like that in some contexts. Like, Normal People by Sally Rooney is like one of my favorite books ever, and I wouldn't see that has much of a plot. It's just the characters. Just because the writing is so like, I'd say it's a bit heavy, because it's so like dense, so heavy, that I feel like whenever we're getting like the character development, it's a lot to intake, and the writing is kind of like not easy to just like mindlessly turn your mind off when you're reading. Like, you actually have to pay attention, which I'm not saying I don't pay attention when I read, but I feel like fantasy and like a romance is a lot like quicker to read for me than to read like a literary fiction, because I don't have to like think as much. I mean, for high fantasy obviously you kind of do, but like, this is not like a palate cleanser book. Like, this is a book you gotta lock in. So I did feel like it dragged a little bit, just because I feel like the whole apocalyptic part of the book, which I don't know if I explained it, but it's basically like they live in this world where it's always raining, it's always flooding, and like people are getting like displaced and having to like do all these things, and it's hard to get a lot of resources. I just don't feel it was built up enough. Like, I did look up the King Lear thing by Shakespeare, and it was basically like he was pitting his daughters against each other, and he was like the king, and they had to like fake love to get inheritance or something like that. And I guess that part was prominent in like the dynamic between the sisters and the father and everything they went through in their childhood, which I did find really entertaining. I think that like everything built up very well. Like, it was very like psychological, if you know what I mean. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It was just like, I feel like the characters are really well written in her books, and if you like love character driven stories and you don't need a plot, then I would definitely recommend reading her books, because her writing and her characters are impeccable. I just personally think that I need a little bit more plot. We got like mostly the entire plot at like 50 pages left in the book, and I was like, oh, where was it the rest of the book? Okay, I need a little more character development than plot sometimes, but I feel like the plot in her books just like not non-existent because it just pushes the characters forward, but you know what I mean. It's like it's not like a main point of the book, and it kind of just focuses on the characters and what they go through, which is nice. Sometimes in this case, I kind of wanted more, especially because it was like an apocalyptic world. That's just kind of like her writing style. I'm noticing from like the 2 books that I've read from her is just that the plot is kind of there to just drive the characters' stories, and it's more about like the message that the plot conveys, which in this one I feel like it's like melancholy and just like consumerism, just like stuff like in general. So it was a 3.75. It was good. I really enjoyed it. I would recommend like her books if you like really character driven stories, if you like blunt characters, like objectively a bit unlikable characters. I really like reading about those. So I did enjoy that part of the story, and I definitely enjoyed Private Rites more than Our Wives Under the Sea, although I feel like because Our Wives Under the Sea had like less point of views, maybe that was easier to connect to the characters. But I really love this, like the dynamic in this book as well. It was very reminiscent of Blue Sisters by Coco Mellers, which I loved. So anyways, we have 3 hours, 16 minutes, and 35 seconds left. I am really hungry, so I'm probably going to go eat, maybe shower after that, and then I'll probably settle down with a book tonight, depending on like if I feel like reading. Okay, so it's later. I did go end up eating dinner, and I didn't shower yet. It's like 8 p.m., but I'm about to go shower. I just think we need to pick the next book because I'm gonna probably take melatonin and then lay in bed and read like a physical book, because I feel like I've just been reading on my Kindle so much or like listening to audiobooks, and I just want to hold a book. So we are gonna pick a book. I'm gonna take you guys with me. I'm just gonna go ahead and pick the books that I'm gonna read. Okay, so ignore that I just put them on the ground. I don't know what to pick though, because these I feel like are the shortest ones. I mean, the only one left, oh, I don't want to spoil it, is about 400 pages. The 7-Year Slip is 323, and then The Drunk and Drowning Tide is 353. Okay, I think I made a decision. I kind of just feel like I need a palate cleanser, just like a romance, like a super fast-paced thing. Hopefully this is fast-paced. I'm not really sure. Just ignore my bed in the background. I washed my sheets and I just didn't feel like putting them on all the way. Like I didn't put my comforter on right. So anyways, I am going to read The 7-Year Slip. I'm going to take a shower and then get ready for bed, and then I'm going to start this. I'll probably update you guys tomorrow, but I'm just going to give you a little background. So this follows this girl named Clementine West. She was really close with her aunt, and her aunt ended up passing away, unfortunately, and her aunt left her apartment. So she ends up moving into her aunt's apartment, and apparently this apartment has been told to like have like a lot of magic, and sometimes like some people will show up in your life. And she never really believed that, but she's like, okay, you know what, like I'm gonna move into the apartment. And when she gets there, there's this man, and he is 7 years in her past and she is 7 years in his future. And so I guess it's like a romance between them. I'm really interested to see where this goes. I've heard nothing but good things, and I honestly just really want a palate cleanser right now. I really want to go into like a fantasy, like a Dark and Drowning Tide, because that is like really highly anticipated for me, but I don't want to go into it at the wrong time. So I think we're going to do The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and this is also on my October and my Fall TBR, so I feel like it'd be good to get it over with. But anyways, I'm going to go shower, I'm going to get ready for bed, lay in bed, probably read for a little bit, and then I will see you guys probably tomorrow. Alright guys, so I am about a third way through The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and we have 2 hours and 22 minutes on the timer. It's just like giving like rom-com, it's giving romance, and I am enjoying it, but I'm not like obsessed with it. I do find like the premise about Clementine and like her magical apartment that she's moved into that her aunt left her very interesting. It's kind of like this apartment that when you need it most shows you the person you need, or like a thing that you need 7 years in the past or the future. I think mainly it's the past, and then they're usually in the future, so I'm not really sure. But we do learn that Clementine's aunt had 2 rules for her apartment. The first was leave your shoes at the door, and the second was never fall in love in the apartment, because her aunt had her own experience and it went wrong, like it didn't end up going like working out, and so she didn't want Clementine to go through the same thing, so she was always like, don't fall in love with this apartment. So Clementine is very skeptical of like feelings towards this man who's like the man who's like 7 years in her past. So that's like in the back of her mind. but it's like a third way through the book and they already kissed, and like I know it's not gonna start then because she has that inkling in the back of her mind, like, don't fall in love in the apartment. I feel like I thought it was gonna be more like they're just cohabiting, they're friends, and then they're gonna like be like a friends to lovers kind of arc, kind of like how it was in Funny Story. Not to sound like a broken record, but like the whole thing about her being like, oh, I can't fall in love in the apartment, I feel like it's gonna be a big plot point and kind of like the thing that keeps him apart, and that's realistic, it's real, like I understand why that's there, why it needs to be there, but I don't think I'm going to enjoy that very much because I just don't like when it's super repetitive and then the characters are like, oh, I can't do this because of this, and like it makes sense, it's realistic to the character and it makes sense for the story. I just don't enjoy that in a book, so we're gonna keep reading. Hopefully it's not that, because I feel like that'd be a little too predictable and like I don't know if I'd love it, but you know, we're just gonna keep reading it. I'm trying not to be like negative or anything, like I'm not disliking this book, I just feel like it's not like as good as I thought it was gonna be. I feel like every time I talk about a book, it just instantly switches up. Like I was like, oh, I don't like where it's like going, I don't like where it's at right now, I feel like it was too like predictable. Girl, you should have just waited literally one chapter because it changed, and I can't say where it went because I feel like that would be a spoiler for like the plot, but I really am enjoying where it's going. It's interesting. It's a very fast-paced book, very short chapters. I feel like I'm liking where it's building up now, so I'm like enjoying the book. I have about an hour and a half left on the timer, so we are gonna finish this tonight. I definitely want to continue this, see where it's gonna go. I feel like the characters just, they vibe so well together, like Ewan and Clementine. He calls her Lemon, it's so cute. I think I'm gonna eat dinner and then finish it. This book is making me super hungry because Ewan is like a chef and he talks about cooking a lot and just like food in general, and it's making me hungry. So I'm gonna eat and then I'll come back to this and I'll probably update you guys maybe when I'm done, maybe if I have any thoughts, but yeah, we're just gonna finish this. I'm enjoying it so far. Not like 5-star feelings again, but like I'm not trying to think too critically about it. It's just a good time. This isn't what I think it is. As you saw, was a little emotional because I finished the 7-year slip. The ending was very bittersweet, very sad. There were very difficult, not difficult, like sad. They were sad moments, and it was good. I think I'm gonna land on a 4 stars. I don't even know what to say about this book. I feel like I can't say much about the plot without spoiling it, but basically, like, the whole premise that I said about, like, the magic apartment, that lived up. I feel like the pacing was really good, very fast-paced, very short chapters. I feel like the characters were pretty fleshed out, but, like, I wasn't as connected to the female main characters I wanted to be, but I still really, I say that, but, like, I really cared about her, like, as a character. I just wasn't connected to her, if that makes sense. Like, I was very empathetic, sympathetic for her cause, but I don't know, I feel like we didn't get as much development, like, on page as I would have wanted for her. I think I'm gonna land on a 4 star though, because I did really enjoy this. I think it was a really sweet time, and it was very sentimental, very sad. There were a lot of like good things that happened and things that were brought up again from like the beginning of the book, and just like little things, and I really love when books do that, and it felt very full circle. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like them as a couple, like, were meant to be together, I think, and I just really enjoyed them as a couple. But I mean, it wasn't like my favorite romance that I've ever read, so I'm gonna land on a 4 stars. I'd still recommend this. I think it was really good and cute, but like I wasn't like completely obsessed with it, but it was a really entertaining read. It was really easy to get through, and I'm glad that I read it. But now we have 37 minutes on the timer, and I'm determined to finish this today because it's 7:30 p.m. and I really just want to be done with this challenge so I can edit it, because it's Sunday and we started this last Thursday, so it's been a while. So I am going to pick out another book. I think we're gonna start The Only One Left by Riley Sager, and I'm gonna start that, and then we're just gonna read for like 37 minutes. I probably won't talk too much about it in this video just because I'm not gonna be able to read that much of it in the video. So we're gonna start that, and then I will see you guys when I have more thoughts. Y'all know what that means. We finished the 24-hour readathon, my first ever one. Yay! I definitely want to do this again, but like not for like a long while because this took too long. But I also think that whenever I do it again, I need to like plan it better so it can be like 2 to 3 days and not like 9. So yeah, we're gonna go to sleep now because it's like 9 p.m. but I'm really tired because I read a lot today, I guess. Alright guys, so it is the next 2 days later actually. I just didn't film yesterday because I was reading the only one left, which will be in my reading wrap up at the end of the month. If I post it at the end of the month, I still haven't done my September one. But anyways, that concludes our 24-hour readathon. I read 5 books and 1 novella. Pretty good. I didn't get through that many on my physical TBR. I think it was 2 or something. I'm not really sure. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to follow me on other platforms, those are always linked down in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, do whatever you want to do, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!